for joining us for the 2020 ICI membership meeting. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. I just wanted to take a minute here to say thank you to everyone for allowing me the great privilege to be the chairman of ICI for 2020. The experience will be something I will cherish for a long time, and I appreciate you having the confidence to bestow such an honor upon me. Our industry and ICI has persevered thanks to all your hard work and commitment. Your efforts are not without notice and gratitude. Let's finish out 2020 strong and roar into 2021, making it even better. One of the great things about our industry is the outstanding people who are part of it. One of the partnerships that's coming into its own is ITT, the Indiana Transportation Team. ITT is a collaboration between INDOT, ACEC, and ICI to improve the entire transportation building system for those involved, the people of Indiana, and the United States of America. I would like to personally encourage everyone attending today's meeting, if you are not already involved, please become involved. It takes us all to be successful. Well, this past year has been unique to say the least, presenting challenges at every turn. Yet, through perseverance and grit, our industry has excelled. The future is bright. As with any great organization or industry, it is the people. Make it go and be successful. I have been so blessed throughout my career to have met so many people from our industry willing to take the time and share and invest with me their knowledge and perspective. I will forever be grateful. It is this passing of knowledge and perspective that keeps our industry flourishing. Please take the time to talk to one another and share your thoughts and experiences. We will be all better for it. And I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to some of those people that are leaving us. I'd like to start with Vicki Kitchin, who is the outgoing executive director of BIC. What Vicki has done for our industry as far as securing legislation and financing will live on for decades and generations to come. She put tremendous effort in making it successful. Thank you very much. Another person who left was Greg Kaczynski. Greg was a former INDOT employee who left and joined the private sector working for Structure Point as an engineer. Greg served with me on the board at ICI up to the time of his retirement. Greg's perspective on things, his ideas, his understanding, his care for the industry go beyond words. And I wanted to say thank you, Greg, for all you've done for our industry. You've definitely set us above. I'd also like to thank Dan Brown with Fenn & Brown. Dan currently is serving on the board as the past chairman and in getting ready to leave the board. In my 6 years on the board, I have followed Dan. He has taken the time and has taught me so much. He's taught me patience. He's taught me understanding how to look at things to the betterment of our industry. Dan, thank you for taking the time. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Richard.
Thanks, Don. Hi, it's Richard Hedgecock, President of Indiana Constructors. We want to thank you for joining us today on our virtual annual meeting. It's not exactly the Crane Bay and Jeff Saturday like we had a year ago, but we'll take what we can get in 2020. You'll notice a couple of links that came in the email with this video. One was for our 2021 calendar. We urge you to print that off and start circling some things, put them on your own calendars as we look forward to bringing events back to ICI in 2021. There's also a link in that email to our strategic plan. In January of this year, your board of directors gathered right here at the Alexander Hotel in Indianapolis and put together a strategic plan for the next few years to help guide Indiana constructors. We'll be referencing that several times during the video, so you may want to take a look before we get started. But first, we've got a special treat, an opening message from our governor, Eric Holcomb. Governor?
Hello, I'm Governor Eric Holcomb. Welcome to your 2020 membership meeting. I want to thank Indiana Constructors for adapting to COVID-19 by using this safe virtual option. You continue to show that safety is in fact your number one priority. And thank you to the infrastructure and transportation construction workers who have kept our state moving this year. Your work is hard work in the best of times, but your industry has risen to the challenge of building and maintaining Indiana's infrastructure safely, even during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's not only been business as usual, but better business as usual. Industry partners, INDOT, contractors, engineers, and suppliers have worked together to take advantage of fewer cars on the road to deliver projects faster, but more importantly, to keep you safer. Sometimes I think it's hard to imagine a workspace that's only inches from traffic whipping by you, but I admire your grit and determination to do this job that keeps all Hoosiers connected. And I'm committed, as is my crew, to doing all we can to keep you going home safely every night. And as we begin winding down the 2020 construction season, I feel confident that Indiana Constructors members will be leading the way to a safe and successful 2021 season. Thank you for all you do.
Thanks, Governor Holcomb, for those kind words. That was great. We really appreciate your emphasis on safety. It's, of course, the #1 priority of ICI. And congratulations to you on your re-election. We look forward to working with you for the next 4 years delivering projects for the taxpayers of the state of Indiana. When our board met this year at the beginning of the year to discuss our strategic plan, safety, of course, was the #1 issue. And that resulted in the hiring of our new safety director, Jim Wood. Jim's going to show us now some of the things that he's working on, and then stick around to the end of the video. That's when we'll announce our safety awards. Jim?
Hello, I'm Jim Wood, Director of Safety and Training with ICI. Since starting with Indiana Constructors in June, I've been traveling the state, engaging with our members like Reith Riley, Milestone, Walsh and Kelly, Fox Contractors, Grade X, E&B Paving, Brooks Construction, Fenton Brown, and many others discussing their safety needs and ideas. I've received some great feedback and have some ideas that have come out of those meetings that have been implemented as part of the ICI safety services. One of those ideas came from a discussion with Andy Brown of Fenton Brown. We were discussing the use of toolbox talks to address safety training needs. Andy asked if we had audio versions of our toolbox talks, which he thought would make delivering the information in the field easier. At the time, we didn't have audio toolbox talks, but I told him I'd look into it. We have now converted a number of our safety toolbox talks to audio and are available for our members to download. The ICI Safety Department is in full swing. Along with traveling the state and getting out to our members, one of the initial things I did was to reestablish the Safety Steering Committee. This group of safety professionals is a driving force in the direction of the ICI safety program. This group includes Trent Becker with Superior Construction, Tommy Blair, HIS Construction, Matt Favory, Brooks Construction, Gary Gagliardi, Midwest Mole, April Hecht, American Contracting, Mike Hoffman, Grade X, Bob Montel, Reith Riley, Jacob Norris with Grade X, Russell Randall with Milestone, and Cheryl Weiser of Fox Contractors. With the help of the Safety Steering Committee, we have held 2 successful safety forum meetings, which brings relevant safety information to the ICI membership. Our Safety Steering Committee was also instrumental with their input on our OSHA 10-hour and 30-hour course content, which I'll talk about later. I'd like to take this time to thank all of them for their time and the value they bring to the ICI safety program. I'm excited to say that we're now able to deliver to our members a curriculum of safety training, which includes OSHA 10-hour and 30-hour courses, work zone traffic safety, trenching and excavation, fall protection, hand and power tools, the Focus 4 hazards, and other safety topics. The ICI safety training programs will give our members flexibility in getting their employees trained and knowing that the content will be focused specifically to them, as opposed to one-size-fits-most training offered by some other sources. For example, our OSHA 10-hour and 30-hour courses will be construction-centered and will include content focused on heavy highway, bridge construction, and excavation. We'll also have open training dates that will enable our members to send employees when their numbers are not large enough to hold their own in-house training. Additionally, we'll have the flexibility to schedule training sessions for ICI member with a group of employees. I can also team up and assist our members when they're doing their own in-house training. So send me an email or give me a call, and I'd be glad to schedule some training with you. During the last several months, we've been updating safety information like the toolbox talks. I've also had several members contact me looking for specific toolbox topics. With their input, I was able to create toolbox talks specifically for that topic, focused to their need, which also became part of the ICI Toolbox Library. So don't hesitate to contact me for this information. As I had mentioned earlier, we are now offering audio toolbox talks to make it easier to deliver this information in the field. We're also engaging our members, providing valuable safety information through the ICI Digs Deep podcast. In addition to updating our safety information, I've helped some of our members in getting their safety programs updated. Along with updating safety programs, I can work with anyone in need of a new safety program, a site-specific safety plan, a job hazard analysis, or emergency action plans. To further support our members' safety efforts to address hazards and reduce injuries, I can be another set of eyes on your projects. I can come out to your project and do a site safety observation and provide you with feedback. As we are all fully aware, 2020 has presented a few obstacles and impeded some of our efforts, but we could not neglect the effort and attention the ICI members have for the safety of their employees and the public. We're going to be announcing the Safety Program Awards in just a few minutes. I'd like to take this time to thank everybody. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone and a safe 2021.
Thanks, Jim. So even with COVID, we had 7 new members this year. I want to read off their names and let's recognize them for joining ICI, even in a year when we didn't have any events. Associate members, we have Republic Services, Southeastern Equipment Company, Precast Solutions, and Cardinal CPA Group. We also had 3 new contractor members. From Plymouth, Indiana, Michiana Contracting, Great Lakes Construction out of Ohio, and IPR Great Lakes out of Michigan. We want to thank these new members for joining us. You're going to get a lot of value out of ICI in the coming years. Now let's go to everybody's font of encyclopedic knowledge, George Sheraw. Everybody loves some George.
Hello, everyone. I'm George Sheraw, Director of Labor Relations for Indiana Constructors. Thanks to COVID, 2020 has been quite a year for doing things in a new way. Thank goodness we didn't have any union highway agreements to negotiate this year. So, what are some of the more memorable projects I've worked on this year? We created what turned out to be a really popular 5-part video series with me asking Andy Martone, President and CEO of Hess Martone out of St. Louis, about withdrawal liability as it relates to Teamsters Central States, Southeast, and Southwest Areas Pension Fund. This fund is predicted to become insolvent on January 1st, 2025. And 1 year later, the backstop quasi-governmental insurance program, known as the PBGC, will also become bankrupt as a consequence of Central States bankruptcy. There are lots of questions and much is unknown as both programs go into bankruptcy. So, ICI delved into this meaty and scary topic in this 5-part video series. We shared this series of videos with AGC of America in the hope that it might help our lobbying effort with Congress. Ideally, Congress will find a legislative solution that is sensible and doesn't penalize employers who have paid every dollar they owe to this and other funds and still find themselves on the hook for more money. AGC of America was so pleased with this video series that they asked if they could share it with their national membership. We agreed. To date, video 1 of this series has been viewed almost 400 times, and we have heard lots of positive comments. This project was originally going to be an in-person presentation to our membership. We decided to create a 5-part video series, and actually this allows our members and all AGC members, in fact, to view this whenever they have time and can digest it. If we had just done the in-person presentation, it wouldn't be able to be viewed nearly as often or as thoroughly, so we think it kind of worked out well. Video 6 will wrap up this topic, and that will be created soon and distributed shortly. So I hope you enjoyed it. So another project that we ended up doing this year was the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration published a new rule on US DOT CDL drug testing. What started as a last-minute article in our last newsletter of 2019 suddenly became a hot topic in early January 2020. We had members calling saying they were trying to set up accounts and couldn't. The system seemed overloaded. They kept trying. They tried in the morning. They tried in the evening. Tried late at night. Early in the morning. Could not get through to set up their accounts. Without an account, they were not complying with the law. And our members don't like to not comply. I did some digging and then reached out to the Federal Motor Carrier Administrator here in Indiana, Christina Baker. She was very helpful, and we ended up hosting 3 in-person seminars to help explain the changes that the US DOT drug testing was now requiring. These changes required all employers hiring CDL drivers to perform background checks using this new online clearinghouse database. This is the database that our members were having trouble logging into. Christina and her crew were hugely helpful in helping our members one by one work through these issues. She took hours trying to help them, and we really appreciate it. It's a huge change. It seemed to come out of nowhere, but ICI was able to quickly react and pull together several seminars for our members. We put these seminars on in Indianapolis and Fort Wayne and in Ferdinand, Southern Indiana. COVID was and remains a hugely disruptive issue. One of the interesting things was the almost immediate creation, passage, and implementation of new emergency federal regulations by Congress. But the consequence of this new legislation was that it meant employers, in addition to trying to cope with the COVID exposure on job sites, they now also had to understand what they needed to do to be compliant with this law. And the interesting thing was the law went into effect almost immediately. What made it even more difficult is that it applied to all contractors, including union contractors, except those with more than 500 employees. Essentially, reaching into union contracts and requiring something to happen that wasn't in the contract and wasn't really contemplated or allowed. But federal law trumps a union contract, so therefore they could do that. But that's a hugely disruptive process with union contractors who are used to following the rules. This, of course, caused all sorts of questions and analysis and problems with payroll and field supervision. ICI quickly jumped in this issue by engaging our labor attorneys for guidance. We pulled together some relevant documentation to help our contractors navigate through these really treacherous issues. We scheduled a conference call in early April to allow our members an opportunity to listen to a presentation by our labor attorneys and other experts at Feggery, Drinker, Biddle, and Reith. This provided an opportunity for our members to ask specific questions that they were struggling with. We had about 100 members on this call, and it turned out to be very successful. Just one more issue we had to race to address for our members in this really unusual year. So another program I handle for Indiana Constructors is the Indiana Constructors Substance Abuse Testing Program, which is in all of the union contracts except for the Teamsters. So this year, COVID had a big impact on our drug testing program. On the one hand, we're very thankful that construction was considered an essential business. On the other hand, COVID adds a level or two of difficulty for field crews. Our members could and would still be working, although each of them had to figure out how to navigate their workforce and field leadership safely through this landscape. During this time, we were drug and alcohol testing, but decided to pause on the job site unannounced testing for 2 months, April and May, while industry figured this out. To start unannounced job site testing again in June, we had to keep employee safety in mind, which meant new protocols such as one person at a time in the van, wiping down the van after each person leaves, filling out questionnaires prior to somebody entering the van, to find out if they had been exposed to COVID or out of the country. But we got it done and we continued testing. Most people were fine with the extra steps. In fact, they actually appreciated the extra precautions because they don't want to be exposed and they don't want to expose their family to it either. So another program that we had this year was the HR Forum, and that's essentially a semi-annual forum to update our members on the ICI SAT drug testing program, reminding them of some of the changes, things such as annual testing, pre-employment testing, the ability to use swabs, how to schedule annual tests at a clinic, etc. We also hosted a seminar led by our attorneys with Feggery, Drinkle, Biddle, and Reith on how to avoid situations that could lead to harassment claims. And they were really well attended. The idea behind the harassment seminar was that our employers could take these concepts and ideas back to their field crews and roll out this training or educational process to the field crews. That way to help them to avoid situations that could lead to a harassment claim. Both of those seminars were hugely informative and really well received. Okay, so let's talk about Purdue University. It turns out that Purdue University in West Lafayette, in their effort to constantly improve, is working to better prepare their construction management technology students to enter the real world of construction. So in January 2020, I was asked to be a guest lecturer to provide an overview on unions and construction job sites, what to expect, how union contracts work, everything a new supervisor or project manager might need to know to be aware of in a 2-hour presentation. And in late January, I gave a presentation to 15 or 20 juniors one of which turned out to be the son of our chairman of the board. I recognized his last name and asked if his father happened to work for Fox Contractors. And he said, as a matter of fact, he did. It was just amazing who you bump into. Anyway, the following week, I got a call from our chairman telling me that his son said how valuable that presentation was. And the other students found this lecture to be really good information that they thought would be relevant when they graduated. They really liked the real world aspect. As a rule, I ask people to fill out evaluations of my presentation so I can improve. I learned that students wanted much more information on strikes, which I thought was curious, but we don't have strikes that often, but when we do, they're hugely troublesome. They loved the firsthand stories, and in spite of the amount of information I tried to squeeze into 2 hours, most wanted to hear more about strikes. They also thought it was interesting that union contractors can choose who they want to be signatory to, and they don't have to be signatory to all unions. That was shocking to them. They also wanted to know about advantages of unions versus non-unions. I gave that information to them, but they wanted to know more. The lecture went so well that Purdue invited me back as a guest lecturer in September 2020. This time it was a 3-hour lecture, and I used all but 15 minutes to cover this topic. Of course, I asked the students in the evaluation if it was too long or too short or just about right, and all of them said it was just about right. The other comment I heard was that students really like to be able to ask questions and get succinct answers that made sense to them, and that's what they thought I did. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed my little update on what I was involved with this year. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the happy half hour. Again, thanks for being members. Really appreciate it. And call me anytime I can be of some help to you. Thanks.
Thanks for that, George. The second point on our strategic plan was engagement. And there's no greater partner that we have than INDOT. So now we're fortunate to have a few words from the Indiana Highway MVP, Joe McGinnis, Commissioner of INDOT.
Well, thank you all for what was an interesting but very successful 2020 construction season for INDOT and for our local communities and certainly our partners with ICI. And it's through these challenging times with the global pandemic, you all stepped up and really kicked it into high gear. And I truly appreciate all of your hard work and dedication and making sure that Hoosier taxpayers are taken care of with all of their infrastructure around the state of Indiana. And I just want to end with this. Stay safe. I will continue to support you and make sure that I get the message out, personally get the message out, that folks put the phone down, particularly when they're driving through a work zone, because we all want to see you go home safely at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. We really enjoy working with you and the team that you've assembled. And we really appreciate the continuity that you've brought to the top of INDOT. So while we're here talking about government, let's talk to Vicki Kitchin with the Build Indiana Council.
Hello, my name is Vicki Kitchin. I'm Executive Director of Build Indiana Council, and I'm happy to give this report for the ICI membership meeting for 2020. 2020, when we started the year, we had a strong forecast anticipated for highway funding. And our main goals at that time were to protect the gains that we had made, our first goal was to protect the gains we had made back in the 2017 legislative session. You guys will recall that the new highway funding that passed at that time indicated that the first year, in fiscal year 2018, INDOT would receive about $350 to $360 million more funds, and locals would receive about $260 million more in that year. Those numbers, however, are to grow through 2024, when INDOT will receive nearly $900 million in new funding and locals about $340 million, totaling over $1.2 billion in new funding when this package is fully implemented. So our first number one goal was to protect those gains. The second goal was to ensure that at the federal level, we have the best possible outcome for Indiana in a new highway bill, because the federal highway bill expires September 30th of 2020. And even with all the new state funding we have achieved, we still rely on federal funds for about $1 billion per year, so it's very important. Well, how things have changed since the beginning of 2020 with the global pandemic. So our concerns were, what will this mean for the highway funding that we had enacted? Our initial concern has to do with how our roads are funded. And we're very fortunate that in Indiana, our roads are primarily funded through highway user fees. And that's a very good thing. The more people drive, the more they pay, and the more funds that are available. But that also means that if people are not driving, there will not be as much revenue for highway funds. So with the stay-at-home order issued in March, and then the later in April and even into May, as employers were encouraging work from home, and many still are, we saw a dramatic increase in traffic. Our lowest drop in late March, early April, traffic was down around 55% from what had originally been projected. Since then, it has come back slowly but surely, although it is still not back as high as it would have been without COVID. We believe that is due to the lack of commuter traffic, primarily in the urban areas. So in closing out fiscal year 20, and I should say that a state fiscal year is July 1 through June 30th. So in closing out fiscal year 20, INDOT identified about $48 million in impact to their budget. But because they had been working on building up reserves over time, they were able to cover that deficit without having to cut any capital projects. At the same time, if INDOT revenues are down, then local revenues would also be down a similar amount, not quite 48 million, but whatever that amount is, it's spread over many, many units of local government all across the state. So local government road funding budgets have also taken a hit. An additional concern surfaced at the end of our state fiscal year 2020, so at the end of June. Part of the new funding that we got in 2017 is that the sales tax collected on gas will gradually come over to the Indiana Department of Transportation through 2024. And that is the thing that actually makes INDOT's budget grow so robustly between now and then, is the sales tax on gas. Well, when the legislature allowed that to happen, they were cautious and they were somewhat concerned about what that would mean for the state general fund. And so they built in a clawback provision that said the governor can hold back on that sales tax on gas if he sees an emergency. The emergency could be something to do with education or healthcare or child services. Well, for the first part of fiscal year 21, the state budget director has announced that the governor is in fact holding back that part of the sales tax on gas. It's about $13.5 million, and that money is instead going to go to the Department of Child Services. As concerning, however, is that the budget director indicated that in December or January, this upcoming December or January, we will likely see that happen again. Funds will be held back from INDOT for some purpose for the state budget. Interestingly, the overall sales tax on gas has already been missing its target revenues, not only because of reduced driving, but because the price of gasoline has been so low. So many of you have probably noticed that you're not paying as much per gallon. And while on one hand that's good when you're filling up the tank, for highway funding, it's not a good thing because it means that revenues are lower than what they projected in 2017. So as we like to say with sales tax on gas, we're kind of getting a double whammy. Driving is down as well as the price is down. Still another, and I know this is a bit doom and gloom, but it's just the way the year has been. Another setback came when INDOT announced that it would suspend the July call for projects related to the Community Crossings Matching Grant Fund. These funds have been awarded to many, many local governments all across the state, large and small, since the original program was implemented in 2016. The Community Crossings Grant Fund is funded from sales tax on gas, which we've already discussed, and also the registration fees that we pay when we go to register our vehicle at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. So because of COVID, one of the governor's emergency order was to delay the date that people have to pay their registration fees, and that moved from July to from June to sometime in July. And so what that meant when NDOT looked to do a July call for projects, there was not enough money in that fund for them to proceed with that call. We have heard now that they're considering another call for projects this month in September, and whether that will be a full call or a partial call, we're not sure. But in any case, we hope that there would be another full call for projects coming along in, say, January of 2021. So we're hopeful about that. So what does all this mean? How does this impact what we're all looking at as far as funding available for the future? Well, we were quite pleasantly surprised in early August when NDOT released new data that calls for robust projections for construction and design for fiscal year 21 and beyond. However, NDOT's financial experts have said that they simply cannot project what may or may not happen due to COVID. Will there be another stay-at-home order that has to be issued this coming fall or winter? Will traffic continue to be lower than projections? So because they can't forecast it, they're not building that into their budgets, but they have identified a list of projects that they could use as a contingency if funding were to drop off and they needed to defer projects. Frankly, our largest concern right now is looking to the future. When the state legislature comes back into session for the 2021 legislative session, they and the governor will have to craft a new 2-year budget for fiscal year 22 and 23. They'll also have to figure out how to close out fiscal year 21 with a balanced budget. So we already know that personal income tax, business income tax, overall sales tax, as well as gaming revenues have taken a significant hit due to business just not being open as normal. The state budget looks at those kinds of general fund revenues to fund huge items in the budget, such as education, Medicaid, and child services. So we know that that's going to be a challenge as they're looking to craft a budget. We also know that in approximately calendar year 22 at some point, local governments will be seeing a crisis with their budgets because they are primarily funded with property taxes. Property taxes are paid in arrears. So it's going to take a while for this effect of COVID to hit the real estate market and values and assessments. But we know that local governments are going to have some severe budget problems, and the state legislature will be looking for a way to help them. So state budget issues and local budget issues. So our big concern is, will legislative leaders and the governor have to look to highway funds to make up those differences if they cannot figure out how to balance those budgets going forward? We see that as our largest concern right now. Therefore, over the summer and through the rest of this fall, Build Indiana Council is meeting individually with state legislators, nearly 100 state legislators and state elected leaders, along with contributors to the Political Action Committee. You, the members, are participating in these meetings. And our message to these state leaders is simple and it's direct. Thank you for supporting the highway funding package back in 2017, and let's get that package back on track, funding highways as quickly as possible. Any further direction of highway funds to non-highway uses will simply mean that certain projects won't get built, and it means that the construction industry will not be at work on those projects. So it's very important to get back on track and let us help keep the economy moving forward. Another factor, though, that we also mention in our conversations is a look toward the future, beyond COVID, beyond our current concerns about budgets, and that is, how will roads be funded in the future? Our current package that we're operating under included an index on the gasoline tax. So since that package passed, we have had a 3-cent increase in Indiana's gas tax, and there has not even been a blip on anybody's radar about that. Well, that index sunsets in 2024. So we need to be talking now to legislators about renewing that index on the gas tax, as well as what will happen when cars become so fuel efficient that the gasoline tax doesn't work. So we need to talk about tolling or vehicle miles traveled and other methods for the future. So we're planting that seed now about what comes next. Lastly, I want to comment on the other big component that I alluded to early in my comments, and that is what will happen as a result of the federal highway bill expiring in September, just a couple weeks from now, actually. We believe at this point that there is so much rancor in Washington that there is just no way they're going to get together on a new highway bill before that expires. And we believe that they will just simply do some kind of continuing resolution. And that's not all bad for Indiana, as long as the funds keep flowing at the levels that they are now. That's probably the best that we can expect from Washington until we get through this next election. It's likely that it could be next year sometime before they will be ready to take up a full authorization of the highway bill. So we continue to talk to our congressional delegation about making sure that whatever happens, Indiana gets the best deal possible relevant to all the other states, and we don't want to end up at the bottom of the heap with a poor return on our investment. So we keep drumming that message with our congressional delegation. So all of what I've just shared takes a very watchful eye and the ability to quickly analyze specific proposals and how they would impact Indiana highway funding, whatever they are at the state or federal level. We are very fortunate in our industry at Build Indiana Council to have a team of professionals with extensive background on these issues and very solid relationships with our state and congressional leaders. So we can get these messages to them in an effective manner. But our most important asset is you, the member. The individuals that are working for companies in the highway construction industry, and those of you who make up our grassroots network. Those of you who are willing to take the time and a little bit of a personal risk, maybe by doing something that's a little outside of your comfort zone, and when we ask, reaching out to your legislators and conveying these messages and participating in meetings with us when we meet with them to talk about these important issues. Long-term, dedicated, stable, and adequate highway funding is not possible without your direct involvement. So stay engaged, be involved, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Vicki. And as most of you know, Vicki's going to be leaving us here at the end of the year, retiring after several decades serving ICI and the Build Indiana Council. Of course, that career culminated with the passage of House Bill 1002 a few years ago that was a significant, if not the most significant, funding increase for the highway program in the history of the state of Indiana. So we all owe Vicki a big, in fact, let's give her a big virtual round of applause and cheer. Thanks, Vicki, for all of your time here serving the members of ICI. The Build Indiana Council quickly formed a search committee and has hired Brian Gould to take over as the new executive director of BIC. Brian has started with us already, and if you've not met him yet, you'll have that pleasure, I'm sure, over the next few months. So now let's talk a little bit about some of our other engagement that we've had going on this year. Let's talk to Julia Polston with the ICI staff.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. My name is Julia Polston. I'm the manager of talent development at ICI, and I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy during this crazy time. So 2020 was supposed to be year 2 of the Indiana Constructors Leadership Institute, or like we call it for short, ICLI. And I had the pleasure of getting the class of 2020 together for their kickoff retreat back in January. And then we were also able to get together for their February class. Both classes went very well, and everyone, including myself, started getting to know each other. And then the month of March came, and that's when COVID caused everything to begin shutting down, and then the stay-at-home order was put into place. So we didn't really have any other choice but to go forward and cancel the March class. And then the month of April came, and we had to do the same thing and cancel that class. We had every intention and hope that we would be able to resume class in either the month of May or the month of June. And we also were hoping that we would be able to reschedule all of the canceled classes, move forward, have that class graduate in November, and then be able to announce the class of 2021. Well, the month of May came around and not a lot had improved regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, unfortunately. So between myself and Richard and other staff members and our board of directors, we had to make a very difficult decision to go forth and just push ICLI into next year. So the class of 2020 is now becoming the class of 2021. And some of you may be wondering, why didn't we just choose the virtual route and move all of the classes to a Zoom setting? And the reason why we didn't do that is because the sole purpose of this program is to make sure that all of the participants get that face-to-face interaction, be able to put a face to a name, and of course the networking aspect along with the educational piece of it. In the class of 2019, they were able to experience all of that, so we didn't want to cut anyone short in the class of 2020. So that's why we just decided to push it into next year. So today, I would like to re-announce the incoming ICLI class of 2021. So those participants are Andrew Brooks with Brooks Construction, Andrew Weir with Rivertown Construction, Britley Platfoot with Milestone Contractors, Caleb Fry with Reith Riley Construction, Charles Smith with Great X, Elizabeth Pastuska with E&B Paving, John Agresta with the Hoosier Company, Josh McCormick with Reith Riley Construction, Michael Bennett with Milestone Contractors, Nick Muse with James H. Drew Corporation, and Nick Relias with Walsh & Kelly. So congratulations again to the incoming class of 2021, and I cannot wait to get everyone back together in 2021. ICLI is one of many ways that ICI focuses on our industry's next generation of leaders. Another is by offering scholarships to college students who are pursuing a career in the heavy highway and utility construction industry. This year, ICI was able to give out 8 scholarships to 8 deserving students. And then AGC of America was also able to give out 7 scholarships to 7 deserving students in the state of Indiana. So I would like to take a moment to recognize each of them. And I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name, please forgive me. So the students who received an ICI scholarship this year are Aaron Duncan from IUPUI, Caitlin Hopper from Purdue University, Corey Phillips from Trine University, Curran Adamson from Purdue University, Hayden Malakowski from Purdue University, Justin Owens from Vincennes University, Matthew Biesold from Purdue University, Nicholas Griffin from Purdue University. The students who received a scholarship from AGC of America in the state of Indiana are Braden Weddle from Indiana State University, Chris Biesold from Purdue University, Mackenzie Vogerl from Purdue University, Dalton Selvage from the University of Evansville, Joel Dykstra from Valparaiso University, Wade Mish from Valparaiso University, and Evan Smith from Valparaiso University. On behalf of ICI, AGC, and all of our members, congratulations to all of you, and we wish you all nothing but the best of luck, and we hope to see all of you in the future. So the last couple of years, I have been working on our workforce development initiative, Working Roads. And for those of you that aren't very familiar with it, or if you're new around here, Working Roads is our initiative on workforce development, where our main focus is on advocating and educating the younger generation and their key influencers on career opportunities that are available for them within the highway construction industry. So 2020 was supposed to be Working Roads year. And what I mean by that is 2020 was supposed to be the year where Working Roads would begin getting into schools and actually getting that face-to-face interaction and engaging with high school students and hopefully even the younger generation. And we were wanting our members to help out with that by going into the schools, getting in front of students, and just sharing their career journeys with these kids. And then also educating them about all of the various career opportunities that there are out there for them. This then would have moved into students actually being able to network and create relationships early on in their careers with our members. We had all of these speaking engagements scheduled on the calendar, and then once again COVID hit and schools were not in session. They were, trying to adjust to the virtual e-learning. We had to get creative because our speaking engagements were canceled, unfortunately. And we had to figure out a way that we would still be able to get these career pathway stories of our members out to these students, out to their teachers, out to their key influencers, so kids could learn about the career journeys and then also learn about all of the various opportunities that are out there for them. So that's when we came up with the idea to record Zoom interviews with various members of ICI who were willing to share their career pathway stories. And then once we recorded those, went ahead and uploaded them to YouTube and posted them all over our social media platforms. And then that gave us the opportunity to share them with teachers so they could share them in the classroom, whether that was virtually or in person. And then this would also lay out the pathway for those teachers to share those with students' parents, other teachers within the school systems, other key influencers at those school corporations. And then through that sharing, we were also hoping, whether that was the teacher sharing it with people outside the industry or just somebody coming across it on YouTube or Facebook, but we would have people outside the industry also have the opportunity to learn about career opportunities. So that's what we've been doing during COVID. I've been interviewing people, so I hope most of you have been able to watch those videos. Working Roads is also present on all social media platforms. So Facebook is where we get our most engagement. And pre-COVID, on average, we would have about 10 to 15 views per post. And then once I began posting the career pathway videos, our engagement went on average from about 10 to 15 views to over 1,000 views whenever we would post the videos. All of our views were organic. They weren't paid advertising. One interview actually had over 1,700 views on Facebook, and that blew my mind. So thank you to those who took time out of your busy schedule to share your career pathways with me, letting me record it and post it on social media. And then also thank you to all of you who took the time to view the videos and share them on social media. And if anyone out there, any of our members who have a career pathway story that they'd like to share, please reach out to me and we can get a Zoom interview scheduled. And then it just gives students another piece of information to learn more about careers in our industry. So another cool thing that Working Roads has done over the last couple of months is I've been able to collaborate more with NDOT's Workforce Development Director, David Dalton. So myself, David, and a few other NDOT employees and some of ICI's members who are actively focused on our industry's workforce development got together at the beginning of September over a Zoom call. And we had our first initial Indiana Highway Workforce Advisory Council meeting. And the sole purpose behind this advisory council group was to have a space and time where this group could collaborate all across our industry, whether it's from the public or the private sector, just to share what everybody's doing actively with workforce development. And then this would also give us the opportunity to identify opportunities and lead efforts to increase career awareness within the highway construction industry. And then we're hoping that eventually will lead into possible skills training for people in the future. And then also, of course, not only to educate the high school level and younger, but also adult learners who are possibly wanting to switch careers or maybe start a new one, just to help them learn about all the pathways within highway construction. So the first meeting went very well, and I'm thrilled to continue and grow our collaborative efforts to improve our industry's workforce. So thank you all who participated in that and will continue with that with us. Those are all the updates that I have on the Indiana Constructors Leadership Institute and Working Roads. To stay up to date with everything, You can follow both ICLI and Working Roads on all social media platforms. Please also tune into the ICI Digs Deep podcast. Sometimes I get the opportunity to make an appearance on that, where I get to interview some really cool people, just like I do on YouTube. If there's anyone out there that wants to share their career pathway story with me, please reach out to me and we can get the ball rolling on that. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Julia. Let's talk a little bit now about our associate members. With every association, the associate members are the lifeblood of the organization. They're the ones that are always engaged, wanting to meet with folks, wanting to get together. And it's been especially challenging this year with COVID to engage our associate members. Julia, Andy, and our team have worked really hard in trying to get those people engaged as much as we can, whether it's through newsletter shout-outs, the special videos that Julia has been doing, or even podcast sponsorships. We really appreciate the work of our associate members and hope that they continue to get value from ICI, and we know that you will in the future with our events that will be coming up in 2021. So now, Andy, let's talk a little bit more about some of the other engagement that we've had going on this year.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andria Hine, and I am ICI's Manager of Communications and Technology. Normally at the membership meeting, you wouldn't see me out and about like this. I'd be behind the scenes making sure that you have all the coffee and bacon that you want. But for today, I'm going to talk a little bit about member engagement during 2020 and exactly what that means. Many of you know me from Indiana RoadCon, and this year's convention in San Juan was exceptional. From our red carpet gala to our service project where we helped a campground designed to house other volunteers. Indiana RoadCon 20 really kind of reinforced the concept of community. And little did we know that the focus that we had on disaster preparedness, planning, and communications would have such real-world applications as we came back to Indiana and faced the looming threat of COVID-19. As we did our part to hunker down and continue to provide essential services, that part of my job that doesn't involve meeting planning began to take center stage, that part that keeps us all connected. And so we started doing daily podcast briefings. We offered special editions of our newsletter. We developed a COVID-19 page on our website that dealt specifically with contractor information. And we pivoted from in-person meetings to Zoom calls, and we are blessed by an industry that is willing to engage in that way. So despite not hosting our largest gatherings this year, so far more than 2,000 people have attended 40 in-person and virtual meetings. Yes, we missed seeing you this year, and we're glad you're safe. And we have taken this time to dig into our strategic plans, directive to engage our members at all levels. So we have turned up our social media presence. Once the initial crisis passed, we switched to a weekly podcast that focused mainly on things like soft skills training and safety and recognizing everyday highway heroes. We began a campaign to recognize our associate members who would normally use our meetings and events as networking opportunities. We're producing YouTube videos right and left. We partnered with Crisis Driver to provide a turnkey crisis planning tool. We funded the Hands Free Indiana media campaign on billboards and social media, and we mailed a bunch of golf balls to our members. So basically, we took all of the communications infrastructure that we already had in place, and we turned it up to 11. And you all are responding. Using all of the analytics and metrics at my disposal and considering things like meeting attendance and newsletter readership and social media involvement, engagement, and our podcast audience, our member engagement has gone through the roof. Check it out. On November 10th, I celebrated my 10-year anniversary with ICI. And while this year has brought its own unique set of challenges, it has by far been the most rewarding. And I think it's amazing that we have all been able to come together and keep this industry running in the way that we have. I hope to see you all later at the happy half hour. If you need the Zoom link, let us know. My contact info is in the video description below. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Here's something we never thought we would have to do. We've become podcast hosts. Basically, everyone on the staff has now, at least one time, if not more, hosted a podcast that we put out on a weekly basis, ICI Digs Deep. And we encourage all of you, if you've not listened to it, to give it a listen. When the COVID crisis first happened and information was coming at us fast and furious every day, it seemed like, we put out those podcasts on a daily basis, eventually getting to the point where now we do them on a weekly basis, letting people know about all the different things that ICI has going on. So now here comes Sara, and she'll tell you a little bit more about all the podcasts that we have out there and how we can get you involved.
Hey, I'm Sara Marshall, formerly Sarah Perkins, and I've been the Communications Associate at ICI since January 1st. I'd like to tell you what I do in terms of communications and the strategic plan, as well as some new projects that ICI has put out this year. I focus primarily on audio and video communication methods. This is my traveling studio. I've got a green screen, some lights, microphones, a camera, and a whole lot of cables. Somehow it fits in this traveling case. I started using this equipment to shoot videos for ICI's upcoming Centennial Celebration in 2024, both in the ICI office and on the road. I used those stories to begin writing the Centennial book. Supplemented with outside research at libraries, archives, and the internet, I got a couple dozen pages written of the book. I was getting into the groove of interviewing, researching, writing, rinsing, repeating, and then COVID hit. And so I shifted gears. We started a podcast. It was originally a 5-minute COVID-19 podcast that we released daily to keep our members as informed as possible. Then it shifted to a weekly podcast that covers topics from safety, workforce development, ICI news, Indiana transportation team updates, member spotlights, and more. P.S. If you've ever wondered why some episodes have different colored album art, it's to signify which topic categories the episode falls under. These different topic categories touch on different strategic plan goals. Episodes with the blue album covers accomplish 3.3.1, elevating the voice of the member, with our associate spotlights and in good company segments. The gray album episodes hit 3.4.1, developing and offering soft skill training. Orange, of course, are safety episodes, which contribute to 1.3.1, developing new safety education and training resources. Finally, yellow albums are general industry news and updates. Those touch on 3.3.2, increasing messaging in all areas. Heck yeah, strategic planning! Zoom was crucial in helping me connect with our members and get their stories out there, and our members reacted positively. Shortly after, we started using Zoom to create videos for our members. Using the software in my studio setup, we recorded and produced Pensionata with George Sheraw and Andrew Martone. We're excited to explore these mediums and continue expanding the ways we communicate with our members. Why, the video you're watching right now had to be produced with effective communication strategies in mind. And don't worry, I'm still hard at work with our committee members on creating a centennial that celebrates, educates, and motivates.
Thanks, Sara. It's great having a new media expert on board, or at least somebody who's willing to become a new media expert. So the fourth point of our strategic plan that we've talked about today is partnering. And we have with us today Travis Underhill, Deputy Commissioner at INDOT, to talk about some of the formal and not so formal partnering processes that we've instilled this last year with the Indiana transportation team. Travis?
Well, this morning we have with us Travis Underhill, who's the Deputy Commissioner at INDOT. And Travis, as many of you know, is charged with a lot of the special projects that they have going on at the department and has been an instrumental driving force in pushing the Indiana transportation team concept. So Travis, thanks for joining us today on this video.
My pleasure, Richard. Thanks for having me.
So real quick, I'll go back and give a little review. We engaged international consulting group, KPMG, probably now 2 years ago, in a joint study with ACEC, INDOT, and ourselves in an effort to try to help us figure out why we were not good at communicating with each other and why we were not good at working with each other and how we could improve those things. out of that came the Indiana Transportation Team, a statewide effort made up of 6 different district subgroups that are all intended to have ongoing conversations among those 3 legs of the transportation delivery stool, break down barriers, come up with concepts and ideas of how to better deliver projects for the taxpayers. So we started all that, and we were going great guns, and the pandemic hit. Obviously, there's some things we'd like to be doing differently, but let's talk about a little bit about some of the things that have been good about ITT from your angle, and then also I'll come at it from ours.
I think even in the pandemic, we've still seen some areas of growth, but certainly we look forward to sometime next year that we get back to doing all of our business in the way we were accustomed to in the past. The biggest overarching is the positive is we've gotten back to the basic tenets of better relationship building. And I think we realize the importance again of the human spirit and that we need to know each other as individuals again, which in years past we in the industry were much better at. And some outside forces and some this and some that, and we can point to a litany of things that caused us to lose our way in that arena. But we've been very purposeful in the last 18 months to 2 years, both on the broad scale, but there's a lot of good stories on the individual scale where we're collectively, all 3 groups, trying really hard to get better at that. And a big part that I've noticed recently is checking yourself at the door, that being egos or preconceived notions or this or that. And some of the stories I've heard recently, while generally in the end are positive outcomes, we were in that rut of arguing and bickering with each other for a long time. So we still have a tendency to revert if something doesn't immediately go our way. And we've got to be cognizant of that. We've got to instill those self-reflection moments, I think, and realize that we're all going to be guilty of that from time to time. And this is going to be a process.
As Roland says, just one more conversation. Let's have that one more conversation.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. That's been the thing to me is, we can and we will here briefly touch on some of the things like 60% plans and big P partnering, small P partnering. But to me, the most important thing of this whole process is not quantifiable. And it is the fact that we are just talking and that we are not going in armed for bear anytime there's going to be a gathering of 2 or 3 sides, but we're all trying to have an understanding of that we're all pulling on the same rope here.
Yep.
You're right.
And I think the small P partnering is one very large component of that. The knowing of each other on a personal level that will transcend that we've got to argue about, this change order here in a minute. It sets the proper tone. I think another thing that I know in some of the circles I've been working very closely with recently, we're also trying very hard to teach folks how to think of things from the other 2 sides of the stool, if you would.
Right.
We don't run a business here at NDOT, not in the private sector sense and profitability and so on and so forth. So this is not a way our mind necessarily works, but it's something that we've talked about as we approach these conversations. Let's stop and let's try to envision where this other party is coming from, whether that's the contracting side or the side that's putting their engineering stamp on the drawings. Why were they making the decisions that they made to get us to this point?
Because I guarantee you it wasn't done for nefarious purposes. They have a reason to do it, and it's important that we each understand what those reasons are.
And if we understand them, then that starts to transcend the assumptions of the past that there might have been a nefarious reason.
Yeah, right. No, that's right.
So,
as it goes to partnering, we are able to say that we have engaged an outside firm that's helping us develop 2 different paths. One is to reinsert as part of some of contracts of a certain size or complexity, actual partnering that is facilitated by professionals. And they are going through the process of starting to put those into contracts going forward. The thing I'm most excited about, and actually just happened over the last few days, This same group is now taking actually one of the concepts that came from one of our district groups down in Seymour and building a training program for project manager level individuals to teach them, coach them on how to self-facilitate partnering on regular, dare I say, run-of-the-mill type projects going forward. That's something I'm really excited about, and we hope to be rolling out during the downtime coming up in the next 4 or 5 months.
Indeed. I think another part of that is we've talked frequently that we've got 60 teams of people having these conversations throughout the state, and everybody's been at a different pace or a different level of success. And this is part due to perhaps the pandemic, the district that came out of, that there's substantial growth and getting caught up with some of the higher performers. So every place around the state, we're going to find our stride. A conversation you and I had with the partnering consultant that looking back, we knew this would take time.
Yeah.
We didn't know how much. We
Right.
just knew it would take time.
Oh, that's right.
And all of these things added together continues the momentum. We're getting there. Where there is and when, we're still on our way, and that's all we're looking for.
That's right. NDOT represents thousands of individuals. The private sector on the construction side represents thousands of individuals, hundreds of individuals on the engineering side. I mean, there's a lot of people, and people are people.
That's
And
right.
it takes a while, you're correct, for those things to happen. So I guess what I would say as we're winding this up is to encourage folks who are in leadership positions in those 6 district groups to continue pushing on, that don't feel like you have to have some sort of a concrete outcome in order to have a gathering, that a lot of the positives that come out of these things are just by having the discussions, by just sitting down and talking to one another. So whether it's virtually like this, whether it's small groups that are continuing to meet in a socially responsible way, we just encourage people to continue to do it until we can do it in the manner that we'd like to be doing it.
And in a manner that it becomes second nature. It's just the way we interact with each other when we get out of bed in the morning.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, Travis, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate our partnership with NDOT. You guys have been great. We really appreciate the leadership team over there, and look forward to more positives going into 2021.
We're November 10 as we're chatting today, so we are perilously close to the end of the 2020 season. And with all that's gone on this year, thank you to you and the membership as we wrap up another vastly successful year.
Incredible.
Here in the state of Indiana, and let's finish strong, but most importantly, let's finish safe.
That's right. Thanks, Travis.
See you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Travis. And of course, before the Indiana Transportation Team even existed, we had the NDOT ICI Joint Co-op Committee, which I call the heart and soul of ICI. It's really what we do the best. And the guy who puts all that together, who all of you know, Dan Osborn. Dan?
Hello, ICI members. My name is Dan Osborn. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for ICI. Thank you for your effort and leadership during this tumultuous year, 2020. I'm on site here at NDOT's I-69, Section 6, Contract 3 project to provide a summary of 2020 government affairs. Joint Cooperative Committee. Accomplishments of note: addition of project line items and contract information books in 2020, resolution on structure footing closure pour, consistency. We submitted solutions to NDOT addressing partial payment of lump sum contract line items and for subgrade treatment IC as type IB. We are finalizing solutions for the MOT device measurement and payment issue. Thank you to the following people for stepping into new leadership roles within the Joint Co-op Region Committees: Northern Committee, Thane Knox and Joe Thomas; Central Committee, Brian Garrett, Amy Zakatansky, and special thanks to Dave Holtz with NDOT; Southern Region, Kimberly Arndt and Garrett Goff. Subcommittee actions: Work Zone Safety. ICI and NDOT leaders met on September 20th to discuss implementation challenges and suggestions associated with law enforcement officers, truck-mounted attenuators, and the process for evaluating and adding safety tools. The subcommittee also discussed new technology, including the queue management system in use on I-70 and queue protection vehicle implementation. The subcommittee will also continue pursuing data associated with work zone incidents to improve MOT design recommendations. Legislation. The Indiana legislature inched closer to passage of automated work zone speed enforcement language. Senator Ford from Terre Haute proposed a bill that passed out of committee but died on the Senate floor prior to a vote due to lack of support. 800 Temporary Traffic Control Subcommittee. A task group of ICI and NDOT representatives met multiple times to tackle an FHWA recommendation to add temporary pavement edge lines. ICI continues to urge NDOT to address several items, including fog seal complications and allowing permanent pavement marking application in the following spring or summer after substantial completion. Bridge Subcommittee. The subcommittee discussed work zone safety topics, including preferences about lane closure versus working with TMA protection, working close to the center line on bridge over live traffic, difficulties organizing and managing rolling slowdowns, and automatic temporary signal device use instead of flaggers. The group learned of NDOT's interest in ultra-high performance concrete for accelerated bridge construction projects. Stormwater quality management. ICI members worked hard in 2019 and 20 with NDOT and FHWA to develop a new stormwater quality management reoccurring special provision. Revisions included removal of the stormwater quality management plan and formal inspections requirement for projects without environmental permits, requiring pre-disturbance meetings for projects with environmental permits. National certification in training status is no longer acceptable. Separated the stormwater quality control plan preparation and implementation into two pay items, and added quality adjustments associated with emergency and general deficiencies. NDOT continues to work on a new stormwater inspection application to replace the ITAP submittal process. Additional collaboration with NDOT. Pre-qualification division. The pre-qualification division director and engineer continue to collaborate with ICI in their efforts to improve the qualification process, contractor performance evaluation, and developing opportunities for ICI to assist up-and-coming small contractors that serve our prime contractor members. Contracts administration. ICI and NDOT Contract Administration Division Director are in regular contact to monitor letting issues and continue to work towards more consistent publication and accuracy of letting results. Major projects. We recently established a monthly meeting with the NDOT Director of Major Projects. Our first task is improving transparency of technical proposal evaluation results. We will also continue urging NDOT to publish major project updates and details about the 5 major projects, including those on I-69, North Split, and ClearPath 465. Standards Committee and materials testing. Thank you to ICI members that invested time to work on proposed revised standards this past year. Topics included temporary pavement markings and edgeline requirements, submittals, field engineering, field office, stormwater quality management, aggregate base, cold weather concrete, guardrail structure attachment, and patching. I urge members to review the Standards Committee agenda published in ICI newsletter and contact me with feedback and questions. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Appreciate that, Dan. So as you can see, every day the ICI staff and your association is doing all that we can, no matter the challenges that are thrown in front of us, to help you deliver the projects that you need to get done. One of the other ways that we're able to assist you is through the associations we have with our national groups. We're affiliated with both the American Road and Transportation Builders Association, and if you haven't checked out the podcast featuring Rich Giuliano, give that a listen, as well as AGC of America. And now we've got a few words from the CEO, Steve Sandher.
Hi, I'm Steve Sandher, CEO of AGC of America. I think one thing that AGC of America, ICI, has demonstrated in the last 6 months is that you really don't know the value of your trade association until you really need them. At the chapter level, at the national level, we all stepped up and demonstrated to our members and to the industry how we could quickly motivate, how we could quickly communicate to elected officials the necessity of keeping the industry operating, and to be able to develop and implement the safety protocols that allowed that to continue. We were basically getting from state, local, and federal officials a revocable work permit that allowed the industry to continue to operate as long as we could demonstrate that we were maintaining safe workplaces. And I think that team effort really paid off and demonstrated to our members that, and actually new members, of the ability of a strong trade association, what it can achieve when times get really tough. Richard Hedgecock is a seasoned trade association executive. He's done a great job wherever he's been. He's been in the AGC family for over a decade now, and ICI clearly is in good hands with Richard.
So thanks, Steve. Those are some very kind remarks and are indicative of what a great chapter, AGC chapter, you are all a part of. And it's because of you and because of your efforts to work together to build a better industry that we are so successful here in the state of Indiana. So now it is time for the annual safety awards. Of course, we had a few changes in our safety award program this year. One of the things that we instituted that we probably will keep doing going forward, our safety director, Jim Wood, actually went out and met with each of the applicants, observed their work, and interviewed foremen and job leaders out on the site, which was a great help in putting together these awards. We've broken them up into 6 different categories based on man hours performed. And we had 18 applicants this year, which was up a little bit over the last year. And physical awards have been ordered and hard hat stickers also have been ordered. I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to present them to you live as we do this. It's not the Academy Awards, it's ICI. We do what we can. So, for the first category of 75,000 annual hours or less, we have 2 winners. In the bronze category, gridlock traffic systems. And then in the silver category for 75,000 hours or fewer, Weddle Brothers Highway Group. So congratulations to both of those companies. Our next category is 75,000 to 150,000 annual hours. Again, we have 2 winners in that category. In the bronze, winner is the Hoosier Company. And then also in that category, we have a silver winner, WB Kester Construction, LLC. So we congratulate both of those 2 companies for those achievements. Next, in the 150,000 to 250,000 annual hours category, we have 1 winner. It's a bronze winner, and that goes to Specialties Company. So congratulations to Specialties. Next, in the 250,000 to 525,000 hours, so 250 to 525, we actually have 5 winners in this category. We'll start with 2 bronze winners. Our 2 bronze winners are Fox Contractors and Brooks Construction, both bronze winners in the 250 to 525. And we have 2 silver winners in the same category. Great X and HIS Constructors. Both are silver winners in the 250,000 to 525,000 annual hours grouping. And we have our first gold winner. We have a gold winner in this category going to Walsh Construction. So Walsh is our first gold winner in the 250,000 to 525,000 annual hour category. Next, we have 525,000 to 1 million hours. We have 1 winner in that category, and that is Superior Construction with a silver award. So a silver award for Superior in the 525 to 1 million annual hours. And last but not least, in the 1 million and greater category, we have 2 winners, and they are both gold. We have 2 gold winners in the 1 million plus hours category. And the 2 winners are Milestone Contractors and Reith Riley Construction. Both gold winners in the 1 million and over category. So congratulations to all of our safety award winners. So I want to thank everybody for this this interesting and different annual meeting. We appreciate you tuning in, and I'm going to now kick it back to our chairman, Don Adamson, who's going to take us out. Don?
Well, and wrapping things up for the 2020 membership meeting, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who took the time to be with us today. I'd ask everybody that's here, please encourage your coworkers to be involved with ICI, to be involved on the jobs, to network with people, build friendships. That's what's going to make our industry grow and continue to be the success that it is today. I just want to take a quick minute to thank everybody at ICI and the staff for all their hard works and challenges through this year. They've been really doing a heck of a job given the things we're up against. So with that being said, thank you. Have a safe rest of the year. Have a safe and productive next year. And look forward to seeing you down the road. Thank you.